The United Galactic Fleet Academy stood on Station Helios 9, a massive structure floating in the cold darkness of space. For 3,000 years, cadets from across the galaxy had come here to train, to learn, and to serve. The station had seen millions of students pass through its metal halls. Today was orientation day, and 63 new cadets waited in a long line before the Central Archive. The Central Archive was the most protected place in the entire galaxy. No one knew exactly what secrets it held. The creators had built it long ago, before any living species had learned to fly among the stars. The creators themselves had vanished thousands of years ago. Some said they died. Some said they left for another galaxy. Most believed they were just a myth, a story told to explain the ancient technology that no one fully understood. At the front of the line stood a biometric scanner. It was a simple-looking device, just a pillar of white metal with a blue light on top. But this scanner was special. It read more than just fingerprints or eye patterns. It read something deeper, something in the blood and bones of every person who stood before it. Instructor watched the line with his forearms crossed. He was a species that looked like giant insects with hard shells and clicking mandibles. He had supervised this ceremony for 20 years. It was always the same. The scanner would read each cadet and assign them a clearance level. Most got observer status. A few lucky ones got researcher. Once in a great while, someone received technician or even architect clearance. The first cadet stepped forward. He was a tall creature covered in green scales with yellow eyes. The blue light washed over him from head to toe. Access level, observer, the scanner announced in a flat, mechanical voice. Clearance granted for decks 1 through 4. The nodded and walked away. The next cadet took his place. She was a being made of living crystal that glowed softly from within. The light scanned her. Access level, researcher, clearance granted for decks 1 through 7. And so it went, cadet after cadet. The scanner spoke the same words in the same tone: observer, researcher, observer, observer, technician. The line moved slowly but steadily. Then came the humans. Humans were a young species. They had only discovered space travel 400 years ago. Most other species still thought of them as children, new to the galaxy and not very important. 5 humans stood in line today. The first 4 received standard clearances: observer, observer, researcher, observer. The 5th human was a young woman named. She was 22 years old with black hair tied back in a simple ponytail. Her face was plain and her body was small. She came from a farming colony on the outer edge of known space, a tiny world called Haven 7 that most people had never heard of. Her test scores were average. Her physical abilities were average. She had been admitted to the academy on a basic scholarship, nothing special. Stepped forward to the scanner. She was nervous. Her hands were shaking slightly. She had dreamed of joining the fleet since she was a little girl watching ships fly overhead. Now she was finally here, and she did not want to fail. The blue light touched her. Then something strange happened. The light did not move. It stayed frozen on its face. 1 second passed, then 2, then 5. The scanner had never taken this long before. Instructor uncrossed his arms. His mandibles clicked with concern. He began walking toward the control panel, thinking that something had broken. 10 seconds, 15. The other cadets started whispering, stood perfectly still, afraid to move. Then the voice came. It was not the flat, mechanical voice from before. This voice was deep and old. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the floor, from the air itself. It filled the entire room like thunder. Access level creator. Everyone stopped breathing. Full clearance granted, welcome home. The lights on the station flickered. Somewhere far away, heard doors opening. Hundreds of doors, thousands of doors. Every locked room on Station Helios 9 was suddenly unlocked. There must be a mistake, whispered. Her voice was barely a sound. Instructor stared at her. His yellow eyes were wide with shock. In 20 years, he had never seen anything like this. In 3,000 years of Academy history, no one had ever seen anything like this. Because Creator was not a real clearance level. It was not supposed to exist. The Creators were ancient history, a dead civilization. They had built the archive and the stations and the gates that connected the galaxy, then they had disappeared forever. No living person carried Creator clearance. Until now. "Stay where you are," Instructor said. His voice was shaking. He pulled out a communication device and spoke rapidly in his own language. Within minutes, security officers surrounded. They did not point weapons at her, but they watched her very carefully. Did not understand what was happening. She was just a farm girl from a small colony. Her parents grew vegetables. Her biggest achievement before today was winning a local swimming competition when she was 16. "I did not do anything," she said. "I do not know why it said that." No one answered her. The other cadets were taken away to continue their orientation elsewhere. Was left alone with the security officers and instructor. An hour later, more important people arrived. Officers with many medals on their uniforms. Scientists with scanning equipment. They examined like she was a strange object they had found. They took samples of her blood. They scanned her brain. They asked her hundreds of questions about her family, her childhood, her dreams. Answered everything honestly. She had nothing to hide. She was nobody special. At least she had always believed that. But the scanner had seen something inside her. Something hidden in her blood, sleeping in her bones. Something that had waited there for a very, very long time. As the scientists worked, the central archive began to wake up. Deep in the station's core, machines that had been silent for 10,000 years started to hum. Lights turned on in rooms that no one had ever entered. Data screens flickered to life, showing symbols in a language that no living person could read. The archive had found what it was waiting for. It had found its heir. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something else felt the archive wake up. Something hungry, something patient, something that had been waiting even longer than the machines. It turned its attention towards Station Helios 9. And it began to move. 3 days passed, sat in a small white room with no windows. They brought her food and water, but no one would answer her questions. She slept on a hard bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering if she would ever see the stars again. On the 4th day, the door opened. A walked in, had seen before but never one like this. His crystal body was dark purple, almost black, and it pulsed with slow, powerful light. He wore the uniform of an admiral, the highest rank in the galactic fleet. "I am Admiral," he said. His voice sounded like glass breaking, sharp and cold. "You will explain to me how a human from a farming colony carries the genetic markers of the creators." Shook her head. "I cannot explain it because I do not understand it. I am just a cadet. My parents grow food. I have never been special in my entire life." "The archive does not make mistakes." Admiral sat down across from her. "It was built by the creators themselves 10,000 years ago. It has scanned billions of beings since then. It has never given any one creator clearance. Until you. Then maybe it is broken." "It is not broken." The Admiral leaned forward. We checked everything. Your blood contains genetic sequences that do not exist in any other human. They do not exist in any other species. They are unique to you, and they match the creator genetic codes stored in the archive." Felt dizzy. This could not be real. She was a farm girl. She used to chase chickens and pick vegetables. She had dirt under her fingernails for most of her childhood. "I do not know what you want me to say," she whispered. Before Admiral could respond, the room's display screen turned on by itself. Neither of them had touched it. Neither of them had given a command. A face appeared on the screen. It was a human face, but somehow different. The features were too perfect, too balanced. The eyes were deep and sad and very old, and the face looked familiar. It looked like's grandmother who had died when was 10 years old. This message was programmed to activate upon recognition of a descendant, the face said. The voice was gentle, like a mother speaking to a child. If you are seeing this, then our experiment succeeded. After so many generations, we had almost lost hope. Could not move, could not speak, could not breathe. My name is Myra. I was a builder. You call us creators, but we never liked that name. We did not create the galaxy. We only tried to protect it. The recording smiled sadly. 10,000 years ago, we saw what was coming. We called it the Hollow. It was not an enemy we could fight. It was not a disease we could cure. It was emptiness itself, a wound in the universe that wanted to swallow everything. Admiral's crystal body flickered with fear. He knew the old stories. Every species had them. Stories about darkness that ate worlds. Stories about the end of everything. We fought the Hollow for 10,000 years, Myra continued. We built weapons, barriers, defenses. We pushed it back again and again, but we could not kill it. You cannot kill nothing. And eventually we ran out of time. We ran out of people. The collapse took everything from us. Tears ran down's face. She did not know why she was crying for people she had never met, for ancestors she had never known existed. But before the end, we made a plan. We found a young species on a small blue planet. They were primitive then, still using stone tools and living in caves, but we saw something in them. They were stubborn. They were creative. They never gave up even when giving up made sense. So we hid pieces of ourselves inside them. We put our genetic code into their blood, scattered across millions of individuals. We hoped that someday the right combination would appear. A true heir who could access everything we left behind. The recording looked directly at, as if Myra could see her across 10,000 years of time. You are that heir. The archive, the stations, the gates, the weapons, the knowledge, it all belongs to you now. Not to rule, not to conquer, but to protect. Because the Hollow is still out there. We hurt it badly, but we did not destroy it. It is sleeping now, healing, waiting, and one day it will wake up. The screen flickered. I am sorry to give you this burden. You did not ask for it. You did not choose it. But the universe is not fair and someone must stand between the darkness and the light. I believe you can do this. I believe humanity can do this. That is why we chose your species. That is why we waited so long. Myra smiled one last time. Good luck, granddaughter. I wish I could have met you. I wish I could have watched you grow. But some things are more important than what we wish for. Remember that. And remember us. The screen went dark. The room was silent, sat frozen, tears still falling. Admiral did not move for a long time. Finally he spoke. The Hollow, our people have legends about it. We thought they were just stories to scare children. Maybe they were true, said quietly. If they were true, then we are all in danger. The Admiral stood up. His crystal body was shaking. You said you are not special. You said you are just a farm girl. But the creators chose your species. They put their hope in humanity. And now their heir sits before me. Looked at her hands. Small hands, weak hands, human hands. I do not know how to save the galaxy, she said. Neither do I. Admiral walked toward the door. But you have access to the archive now. Every secret the creators ever kept, every weapon they ever built, every mistake they ever made. Perhaps the answer is hidden somewhere in there. He paused at the door. I will speak to the Fleet Council. They will want to meet you. Many of them will be afraid of you. Some may want to use you. Others may want to kill you. Politics is complicated when the fate of the galaxy is involved. And you asked, what do you want? Admiral turned back to look at her. For a moment, his cold crystal eyes seemed almost warm. I want to survive, he said. And right now, you might be our only chance. So I will protect you, Cadet. Not because I like you. Not because I trust you. But because the universe apparently decided that a farm girl from a small colony is the key to everything. He walked out. sat alone in the White Room, the weight of 10,000 years pressed down on her shoulders. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something ancient was waking up, and she was supposed to stop it. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she stood up and walked out to face her destiny. The news spread like fire across the galaxy. Someone had received creator clearance. A human, a young woman from a colony world that most people had never heard of. Reactions came quickly. The Science Council demanded access to for study. They wanted to understand how creator genetics could survive in a human body. The government wanted her brought to there for protection, though everyone knew protection meant control. The theocracy was the worst. Their high priest declared a false prophet, a demon wearing human skin. He called for her immediate execution. Within the first week, 3 assassins tried to kill her. Station security stopped all of them, but it was clear that was not safe anywhere. Admiral moved her to a secure section of Station Helios 9, deep inside the central archive itself. No one had ever lived inside the archive before. No one had ever been allowed. But the archive welcomed like an old friend welcoming family. Doors opened when she approached. Lights turned on to guide her path. Screens activated to show her information she had not even asked for. The ancient machines recognized her blood, her DNA, her very existence. To them, she was not a stranger. She was home. Began to learn. The archive was not just a library. It was a teaching system designed to educate creator children in the management of galactic infrastructure. For 10,000 years, it had waited for a student. Now it finally had one. Every day spent hours in the learning chambers. The archive showed her how the gates worked, the massive structures that allowed ships to travel between distant stars in moments. She learned that there were hidden gates, sealed gates, gates that led to places the current galaxy had forgotten existed. She learned about the defense platforms, hundreds of them, hidden in dead systems throughout the galaxy, weapons so powerful they could crack moons. They had been sleeping waiting for someone with creator clearance to wake them up. She learned the history of the builders. They had not called themselves creators. That name came later, given by younger species who found their abandoned technology and assumed they must be gods. The builders were not gods. They were people. They laughed and cried and fell in love. They made mistakes and learned from them. They built beautiful things and sometimes destroyed them by accident. And they had fought a war that lasted longer than most species had existed. The Hollow learned everything the archive knew about it. The Hollow was not a creature or a species. It was a wound in the fabric of reality itself. Somehow, long before the builders existed, something had torn a hole between dimensions. That hole leaked emptiness into the universe. Not darkness, not evil, just nothing. An absence that spread slowly, consuming everything it touched. The builders had discovered it too late. By the time they understood the threat, the Hollow had already eaten 3 galaxies. They fought it with everything they had. They built barriers of folded space to contain it. They designed weapons that could hurt it, slow it down, push it back. But they could never kill it. How do you kill nothing? The war drained them. Generation after generation died fighting. Their population fell, their resources vanished, and eventually the collapse came, the final battle, the last stand. They won barely. They pushed the Hollow back behind its barriers and sealed it away, but the cost was extinction. The few builders who survived were too weak, too scattered. They died out within a few hundred years. But before they died, they planted seeds, genetic seeds, hidden in the blood of a young species on a small blue world. Humanity learned all of this, and it terrified her. One evening, she sat in her quarters inside the archive, staring at a star map. Red dots marked the locations where the barriers were weakest. There were dozens of them. A knock came at her door. She opened it to find a young human man standing outside. He was tall with short black hair and serious eyes. She recognized him from orientation day, before everything changed. "I am," he said. "We were in the same cadet group." "I remember," stepped aside to let him in. "How did you get past security?" "Admiral sent me. He thought you might need someone to talk to, someone human." Looked around the room. "He also thought you might need a bodyguard. I scored highest in combat training." "A bodyguard?" Almost laughed. "3 assassins already failed. I do not think one more guard will help." "Maybe not," shrugged. "But at least you will have company while you wait for the next assassin." Despite everything, smiled. It was the first time she had smiled in weeks. They talked for hours. Was from a colony world too, though his was larger and more developed than Haven 7. He had joined the academy because he wanted adventure, wanted to see the galaxy. He had not expected to become bodyguard to the most important person alive. "Do you really believe all this?" he asked eventually. "The creators, the Hollow, the ancient war, it sounds like a story." "I did not believe it at first," admitted. "But the archive does not lie. I have seen the records, I have seen the weapons, I have seen the barriers." She paused. "And I have seen the latest reports. The barriers are failing. The Hollow is waking up." His face went pale. "How long do we have?" "The archive estimates 50 years, maybe less." 50 years is not enough time to prepare." "No, it is not." Stood and walked to the window. Outside she could see the stars, millions of them, billions of them. Each one might have planets. Each planet might have life. And all of it was in danger. "The creators had 10,000 years and they still almost lost," she said quietly. "We have 50 years and a galaxy full of species that cannot agree on anything. Half of them want me dead. The other half want to use me for their own power." "Then what do we do?" Turned to face him. Something had changed in her eyes. The fear was still there, but something else was growing too. Something hard and bright, like a flame that would not go out. "We make them listen," she said. "We show them the truth. We open the archive to everyone. Every secret, every weapon, every piece of knowledge, we give it all away." "Give it away," stared at her. "That is power beyond imagination. You could rule the galaxy with that." "I do not want to rule the galaxy, I want to save it." His voice was steady now. "The creators failed because they fought alone. They did not share their burden. They did not ask for help. I will not make the same mistake. If we face the Hollow, we face it together, all of us, every species, every world." She looked back at the stars. "The Hollow does not care if we are human or it will eat us all the same. So we fight together or we die apart." Was silent for a long moment, then he nodded slowly. "All right," he said, "then let us make them listen. Where do we start?" Smiled grimly. "We start by showing them what they are afraid of." Building an alliance was harder than had imagined, much harder. She traveled to every major world in the galaxy. She spoke to councils and kings, presidents and priests. She opened the archive and shared its secrets freely. She showed them the records of the Hollow, the images of destroyed galaxies, the warnings left by the builders. Many did not believe her. The Science Council said the records might be fake. Ancient propaganda, they called it. The government believed the threat was real, but they wanted control of the archive in exchange for their help. When refused, they from talks. They were the worst. High Priest called a holy assembly and declared that was trying to trick the galaxy. The Hollow was a lie, he said. The creators were demons and their heir was a demon too. He urged all to resist her influence. Stayed by her side through all of it. He protected her from 2 more assassination attempts. He argued with politicians who would not listen. He kept her spirits up when she wanted to give up. "They are scared," he told her one night after a particularly bad meeting with the. "When people are scared, they get stupid. They would rather deny the truth than face it." "Then how do we make them face it?" asked tiredly. "I do not know. Maybe we cannot. Maybe we have to wait until the danger becomes impossible to ignore." She hated that answer. but deep down she knew he might be right. The change came 6 months later. Was a colony world on the edge of their space. 12 million people lived there. Farmers, teachers, children, priests, ordinary people living ordinary lives. One morning, a tendril of darkness reached through a weakening barrier. The military responded immediately. They sent ships, soldiers, weapons. None of it mattered. The Hollow did not fight. It did not attack. It simply touched things, and those things stopped existing. Ships vanished, soldiers vanished, buildings vanished. In 3 hours, every living thing on was gone. Not dead, gone. There were no bodies, no ruins, no signs of destruction. The planet remained floating in space, completely empty. The grass still grew. The rivers still flowed, but nothing alive remained. 12 million people had been erased as if they had never existed. The galaxy watched in horror. Saw the footage in her quarters on Station Helios 9. She saw the darkness spreading across the planet's surface like a stain. She saw the evacuation ships trying to escape, only to disappear into nothing. She saw the last transmission from the surface, a child crying for her mother, and then silence. She wept. Found her sitting on the floor, her face wet with tears. "It started," she whispered. "The Hollow woke up, and we are not ready." "We will never be ready," knelt beside her, "but we can still fight." The next day, something unexpected happened. A ship arrived at Station Helios 9. A ship. On board was High Priest himself, the same leader who had called for death. He did not look powerful anymore. He looked broken. His shell was cracked. His eyes were empty. He had watched his people die on. He had watched his prayers fail to protect them. He walked into the archive and knelt before. "I was wrong," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "I was proud and blind and foolish. The Hollow is real. It killed my people. And now I know that only you can stop it." Helped him stand. "I cannot stop it alone. No one can. The creators could not. Humanity cannot. We need everyone." "Then you will have everyone." Looked at her with new eyes. "I will tell my people the truth. I will tell them that I was wrong. I will pledge our fleets and our warriors to your cause. Even though I am human. You carry the blood of the builders. You carry the hope of the galaxy. What you are does not matter. What you do matters." It was the first real victory. News of spread everywhere. Species that had doubted now begged for help. Species that had demanded concessions now offered everything they had. The government pledged their crystal fleets without asking for anything in return. They sent their scientists to study the archive and develop new weapons. Even small civilizations that had no military strength offered what they could: food, supplies, medical support. Within 1 month, a coalition formed. They called it the Builders' Compact, named after the ancient people who had first fought the Hollow. Every major species joined. Every fleet combined. Every world contributed. And at the center of it all stood. She had never wanted power. She had never wanted leadership. She was 23 years old, a farm girl from a small colony. But the galaxy looked at her and saw something more. They saw the heir of the builders. They saw the one person who could access the ancient knowledge and weapons. They saw hope. "You are doing well," told her after a long day of strategy meetings. "The coalition is stronger every day." It is not enough. Stared at the war maps. Red lines showed where the Hollow was spreading. Blue dots showed coalition forces. There were not enough blue dots. The builders fought for 10,000 years with technology far beyond ours. They barely won. We have maybe 45 years now, and we are still learning how to use their weapons. Then we will learn faster. What if we cannot? Put his hand on her shoulder. Then we will die fighting, but we will not give up. That is what humans do. That is why the builders chose us. Closed her eyes. She remembered her grandmother who had died when was young. She remembered the recording of Myra, the builder ancestor who looked so much like her grandmother. She remembered the words, Someone must stand between the darkness and the light. The archive found something, she said quietly. A weapon the builders never finished. They called it the anchor. It cannot destroy the hollow, but it can trap it, lock it in a prison of folded space forever. Then we build it. It will take years, and someone will have to activate it from inside. Understood immediately, from inside the prison. Yes. That means whoever activates it will be trapped too, forever. Did not answer, she did not need to. They both knew what she was thinking. Grabbed her arm. No, find another way, you are too important. I am not important. Looked at him with calm, sad eyes. The coalition is important. The galaxy is important. I am just the person holding the keys, and when the time comes I will do whatever I have to do. Dad? Promise me something. She took his hands. If I do not survive, promise me you will keep them together. Everyone. Promise me the compact will survive. His eyes were wet. He wanted to argue. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that there had to be another way. But he saw the truth in her face. She had already decided. I promise, he said. Smiled softly. Thank you, now let us go save the galaxy. 2 years passed. The hollow grew stronger. It consumed 17 more worlds. Millions died, or rather, millions vanished, erased from existence as if they had never been born. The coalition fought back where they could, using builder weapons to slow the darkness, but everyone knew they were losing. The anchor was almost complete. Engineers from every species had worked together to build it. Crystal experts designed the power core. Scientists programmed the folding systems. Builders assembled the framework. Humans coordinated everything, acting as bridges between species that had spent centuries hating each other. Supervised it all. She had aged in the past 2 years. There were lines on her face that had not been there before. Her eyes carried a weight that no 25-year-old should have to carry, but she never complained. She never rested. She pushed forward because stopping was not an option. On her 25th birthday, the final barrier fell. The hollow emerged like a nightmare made real. It was not a creature or a shape. It was an absence, a wound in reality that swallowed light and matter and meaning. Stars disappeared when it passed. Planets crumbled into nothing. Space itself seemed to scream. The coalition fleet assembled at the line, a chain of dead systems that the builders had prepared long ago. This was where they would make their stand. This was where they would live or die. 3,000 ships gathered, crystal cruisers that sparkled like gems, war carriers that bristled with weapons, science vessels packed with experimental technology, human frigates that were smaller and weaker but faster and braver than anything else in the sky. 12 species, 3,000 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. And at the center of it all, the anchor, a massive station built from builder blueprints, humming with power that could reshape reality itself. Admiral commanded the fleet from his flagship. His crystal body glowed bright with determination. He had spent 2 years fighting beside species he had once considered enemies. He had learned to respect them. He had learned to trust them. Commanded the human division. He had risen quickly through the ranks, not because of political games, but because he was good at his job and everyone knew it. His ships flew in tight formation, ready for anything. Stood alone in the anchor's control room. The trap is set, she said through the communication system. I need you to drive the hollow toward me, force it into the center of the line. When it reaches the anchor, I will activate the prison. And then what? Admiral's voice was rough. You will be trapped inside with it. Yes. There must be another way. There is not. The anchor requires a living mind to control the folding sequence. A computer cannot do it. The builders designed it this way because they knew that only someone willing to sacrifice everything would deserve to use it. Silence on the channel. Spoke next. His voice was steady but could hear the pain underneath. "I will not let you do this." "You promised me," she said softly. "You promised you would keep them together. You promised the compact would survive." "I did not promise to let you die. I am not asking you to let me do anything. I am telling you what I am going to do, and I need you to finish the fight after I am gone." The hollow was getting closer. They could see it now on the sensors, a spreading darkness that devoured everything in its path. Time was running out. "All ships," Admiral commanded, "begin attack. Drive the enemy toward the anchor, for the galaxy, for our children, for everyone we have lost." The battle began. It was chaos, beautiful and terrible chaos. Ships fired beams of pure light that burned through the edges of the hollow. Carriers launched thousands of fighters that swarmed around the darkness like angry insects. Vessels projected shields that held back tendrils of void. And the hollow pushed back. Ships disappeared. Thousands of lives vanished in an instant. The darkness spread and reached and hungered. But the coalition held. They drove the hollow forward, step by step, sacrifice by sacrifice. Every ship that died bought another minute. Every life lost pushed the enemy closer to the trap. Human frigates flew closest to the danger. They were small and fast, darting in and out of the darkness, drawing its attention, leading it onward. He lost half his ships in the first hour. He kept fighting. After 3 hours, the hollow reached the center of the line. "Now," Admiral shouted. Took a deep breath. She thought about her parents on Haven 7, still growing vegetables, probably wondering what had happened to their daughter. She thought about, brave and stubborn and loyal. She thought about the builders, her ancestors, who had looked at the stars and decided they were worth protecting. She thought about Myra's message. Someone must stand between the darkness and the light. She activated the anchor. Reality folded. Space twisted. The hollow screamed if emptiness could scream. It tried to escape, tried to spread, tried to consume, but the prison was already forming around it. Walls of folded space locked into place, layer after layer, cage within cage within cage. Felt herself being pulled in. She did not resist. This was always how it was going to end. She had known it for 2 years. She had made peace with it. The last thing she saw before the prison sealed was the coalition fleet, battered and broken but alive. She saw and ships flying together. She saw humans standing shoulder to shoulder with species that had once called them children. She smiled. Then the prison closed and disappeared from the universe. The hollow was gone, trapped forever in a cage between dimensions, sealed by walls that would never break. The galaxy was safe. But was gone too. Floated in his damaged ship, staring at the empty space where the anchor had been. Tears ran down his face. He had promised her he would keep the compact together. He had promised the coalition would survive. He would keep that promise, even if it broke his heart. 2 months later, they built a memorial on Station Helios 9. It stood in front of the central archive, where everything had started. A simple stone with simple words. She was just a cadet. Species that had warred for centuries stood together at the dedication ceremony. And human. They had fought together. They had bled together. They had won together. High Priest spoke of courage and sacrifice. Admiral spoke of duty and honor. But it was who spoke last, and his words were the ones that everyone remembered. Used to say that the builders chose humanity because we never know when to quit. We look at impossible odds and think someone should try. He paused, his voice breaking. She was wrong about one thing, though. It was not just humanity they chose. It was all of us, every species, every world. They believed in the galaxy. They believed we could work together, fight together, win together. He looked at the gathered crowd. Aliens of every shape and color, former enemies standing as friends. Proved them right. And now it is up to us to keep proving them right, every day, for the rest of our lives. The crowd was silent for a long moment. Then slowly they began to applaud. Not just the humans, everyone. The sound echoed through the station, through the archive, through the halls where a young farm girl had once walked. Years later, people would ask if he thought had survived. The anchor's design was ancient and strange. Some scientists believed the prison might not have killed her, only trapped her. He always gave the same answer. I do not know, but if anyone could find a way to survive the impossible, it would be her. She was human. We never know when to quit. And deep in the darkness between dimensions, behind walls of folded space that would stand forever, something stirred. A hand pressed against the wall of the prison. And waited. Some stories do not end. They simply pause, waiting for the next chapter. This was one of those stories. And somewhere, in a cage between realities, opened her eyes.